All right, friends, Chapter 2 quiz review, numbers 11 through 13. It says, write the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive of the given conditional statements, and then just determine if they are true or false. Remember that our given conditional is our OG. It is in alphabetical order. If P, then Q. So what is the converse? Converse is like shoes. You just switch them. If Q, then P. You just take your feet and you switch the left and right. You cross the right over the left, or the left over the right. What is inverted mode? Inverted mode is like a video game. If it's the negation of P, then the negation of Q, meaning not P, not Q. So if it doesn't have the word not in it, you make it the opposite. And so if it already has the word not in it, then you take it out. And then contrapositive is the most. It's the most letters. Look at how long that one is compared to everything else. That is where you're going to not only switch them, but you're also going to flip them. So just as a quick review, you switch the converse, you flip the inverse, you switch and flip the contrapositive. So make sure you know that for quiz day. So let's look at number 11 in the given conditional statement. Here's the word if, here's the word then. Y'all know I love to color code, so I'm going to go the hypothesis in blue, and I'm going to go the conclusion in yellow. And so here's what this sentence reads currently. If the sidewalks are wet, if P, then it has been raining Q. Is that true or false? And immediately I want to say true because I'm like, yeah, if the sidewalks are wet, it has been raining. But the way that this is written, you have to ask yourself, are there any counter examples? Is there anything that can make the sidewalks wet that is not rain? And so what are my counter example? My counter example could be sprinklers going off. My counter could be sprinklers or spilling water, or so sprinklers. You could have snow that makes the ground wet. Whatever it is that you want to say, all you really need is one. So I'm just going to say sprinklers. Somebody could have spilled a whole bunch of water or dumped out a whole bunch of water. Somebody could be running a hose going down for like a water slide. So if the sidewalks are wet, it doesn't necessarily have to have been raining. So that would be false. Our first one would be false. Immediately we know that since the first one, the conditional is false, we know that the contrapositive should be false. But we'll make sure in a second. So now let's write the converse. I like to think of this in colors. If the conditional statement is if blue, then yellow, what is our converse going to be? Our converse is going to be if yellow, then blue. So let's go ahead and write that. If yellow, what does yellow say? It has been raining. If it has been raining. So it's just going to take a little bit longer to write. Sorry, guys. I know that when we did this assignment, we typed it. If it has been raining. So if yellow, then blue. So if yellow, if it has been raining, then the sidewalks are wet. All right, so there is my converse statement. Now we just need to see if it's true or false. So if it has been raining, then the sidewalks are wet. If, then statement, we did if yellow, then blue. That is going to be true. As long as it is not like a covered sidewalk situation, we're just looking at exposed sidewalks. If it rains, the sidewalks are going to get wet. That is true. So immediately we know that that means that my inverse should be true. The two verses, inverse, converse, should always have the same truth value. And then the conditional statement and the contrapositive should always have the same truth value. But let's go ahead and go inverted mode. If my OG, remember this is my OG. If my OG is if blue, then yellow, then my inverse is going to be if not blue, then not yellow. Okay, so if not blue. So what was our original blue? The sidewalks are wet. We're going to say if the sidewalks are not wet. If the sidewalks, if the sidewalks are not wet, so we just did the negation, meaning we made it the opposite. If the sidewalks are not wet, then we're going to do then not yellow, then it has not been raining. Put that in capital. And of course, we know that that is going to be true as well. The sidewalks are not going to be wet if it has not been raining. Okay. If the sidewalks are not wet, then it has not been raining. That is also true. Now let's go contrapositive. Our contrapositive is the most. It's where you not only have to switch them, you also have to flip them. And so we're going to switch and flip our original statement. So we have if blue, then yellow. We're going to go if not yellow, then not blue. So if not yellow would be if it has not been raining, then the sidewalks are not wet. Okay, and so that was if not yellow, then not blue. Okay, and if it has not been raining, the sidewalks are not wet. So we have to ask ourselves, are there any other reasons that the sidewalks could be wet, not because of rain? And again, we've already said a counterexample of the sprinklers, which also applies here. So this statement is false. All right, so this part just takes a little bit longer, y'all. You're writing sentences. You probably feel like you're in an English class right now. We're just looking at logic, reasoning, and proof. All right, what is number 12? If a triangle has 3 congruent angles, then the triangle is equilateral. And so here's my hypothesis. A triangle has 3 congruent angles. Here's my conclusion. The triangle is equilateral. This is something that y'all probably talked about in middle school, and we know that an equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides and 3 congruent angles. So this is true. If it has 3 congruent angles, I'll draw you a picture of that. 3 congruent angles, then it is equilateral, meaning all of the sides are going to be the same as well. So all of the angles would be 60. So if our OG, our conditional statement, is if blue then yellow, what is our converse going to be? It's going to be if yellow then blue. So if the triangle is equilateral, if yellow, then blue, what does our blue say? Our blue says then a triangle has 3 congruent angles. Remember, congruent just means equal. All 3 of them are equal. So if all 3 of them are equal, they're all going to measure 60 degrees. You don't have to know that for now. We'll talk more about this in another chapter coming up. But that is going to be true. Okay? So that also means that the inverse and the contrapositive are going to be true. We could write a biconditional out of the statement if we wanted. If the conditional and the converse are true, everything else is true. Because the first and last have the same truth value, and the converse and the inverse have the same truth value. So now all we have to do is write the inverse. So what is inverted mode? Inverted mode is where you go if not blue, then not yellow. So if a triangle does not have 3 congruent angles, I guess I'll write the word congruent since I'm posting this for the key. Congruent angles. So that was if not blue, then not yellow. The triangle is not equilateral. Then the triangle is not equilateral. All right. So that was if not blue, then not yellow. What is our last one? Our last one is going to be the contrapositive, which is where you switch them and you flip them. So if not yellow, then not blue. So if the triangle is not equilateral, then not blue. What would our not blue be? Our not blue is going to be a triangle does not have 3 congruent angles. Sorry for my horrible handwriting, guys. Does not have 3 congruent angles. Again, this would be much easier to type than it is to write, but I do like to color code. It helps my brain. Okay. All right, so notice we have added the word not on the inverse and contrapositive because the original statement did not have it. If it already had the word not, we would take the word not out. We talked about in class how it's sometimes weird because the opposite of I have blue eyes is not I have green eyes or I have brown eyes. The opposite of I have blue eyes is I do not have blue eyes. So you're either adding the word not in or taking the word not out. So the opposite of it is not raining is it is raining. We talked about it in my class of like a light switch. The opposite of on is not necessarily off. You would say it is not on because there's not always just one other option. All right, let's look at our next statement. If it is an apple, then it grows on a tree. So if blue, then yellow. There's my P, there's my Q. Okay, so there's P on this one, here's Q on this one, here's P, here's Q. Okay, that is going to be true. If it's an apple, it grows on a tree. So what else do I know is true? The contrapositive should be true. All right, so let's go ahead and write our converse. What's our converse going to be? If our conditional is if blue, then yellow, our converse is going to be if yellow, then blue. So if it grows on a tree, it grows on a tree, T-R-E-E, then it is an apple. And now we want to see, is that true or false? Is if yellow, then blue, true or false? If it grows on a tree, then it is an apple. We know that that is going to be false. There are other things that grow on a tree that are not apples. Okay, you could have a pear tree. And so we immediately know that our inverse should be true or should be false as well. What is our inverted mode going to be? It's going to be if not blue, then not yellow. So if it is not an apple, then it does not grow on a tree. All right, again, this is going to be false because it could be a pear. A pear is not an apple, but it does grow on a tree. Okay, so that was not blue, then not yellow. Remember, the last one is the most. We switch it and we flip it, and so that's going to be if not yellow, so if it does not grow on a tree, then it is not an apple. Then it's not an apple. Then it is not an apple. So that was our not yellow, if not yellow, then not blue. And we know that that is going to be true. If it does not grow on a tree, it can't be an apple because all apples grow on trees. And so that section takes the longest. You all feel like we just wrote a paper. That is hard for my math teacher brain. But that is just going to be conditional statements, converses, inverses, and contrapositives. So I will start a new video for the next section. Thank goodness that part is done.